Call to order this regular council meeting for Monday, February 11th. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Colin, will you call the roll, please?
Weiss.
Here.
Rhines.
Here.
Gilroy.
Here.
Welton. Hall.
Here.
Bizzard.
Here.
Bellinger.
Here.
I did receive a call from Councilman Welton. She had a slight accident earlier today and will not be here.
Motion to excuse. Second. Sandy.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right, and now I'm looking for approval of the agenda as submitted, or if there's any changes that council would like to make.
Motion to submit, to approve agenda as submitted. Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
And now we have an opportunity for audience participation. If there's anybody in the audience that would like to come up and speak at this time. All right, moving right along. We have council meeting minutes for January 14th. If you've all had an opportunity to review them, I'm looking for a motion to approve unless there's any changes that need to be noted.
I'll make a motion to approve, the minutes as submitted.
Second.
Got one thing.
Yes.
Under there, the appointment of council board members where for NISA it says second, it doesn't say a date, I believe that's Thursday, is that correct?
Correct.
All right, if we could go ahead.
I'll make a friendly amendment.
All right.
Second.
Thank you.
And then, I don't think there's anything else. We have zoning board of appeals notified, cemetery board of facilities, the same way?
Yes. Yep. All right then, with that friendly amendment, and it was properly seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. And now we have accounts payable. Noah, you had your work cut out for you this evening.
Yes, we have, two different batches to go through, so we'd like to open your packet and we'll go through the first group. I had a chance to review, the checks, and I'd like to make a motion to approve batch one checks, check 71315 through 71390, in a total of $858,552.50.
Second.
All right.
And I do have a couple questions for Corey real quick.
Yes.
I noticed
Second
Scott's not
batch.
here, but, no, this isn't the first
Oh,
batch
first
still.
batch.
Can you update broken overhead door, which facility was that at for $2,900?
Which page number is that?
It's page 2, halfway down. Further down, it would be 29.
Yep, I see it. I believe that was at the wastewater treatment plant facility. We had some overhead door upgrades that they did in the last couple months.
Okay. And then 4 lines down below that, the 9,470, that was for design, for the note that we talked about earlier.
Yep, that's for Spicer Group. That engineering proposal was approved earlier in 2018. You'll see, I think in the next batch, there's another big one. We had a submittal date on January 25th, so a lot of the work was coming to a head then.
I have one for this batch, it's gonna be the one for Builders Hardware, for the locks. Can you maybe elaborate on that a little bit?
Sure, yep, so we have been doing a comprehensive lock replacement program that's encompassed the entire park system. So it eventually is gonna make it easier for the public. There's standard set of keys now, so we have to swap out every single lock, including all the padlocks, like for the bollards that get people into the park. And so that hit just about every city building. What you're seeing there is, even though a lot of that work was done in the summer, it took a long time for the invoices to come in. So I think there still may be one more yet to come.
Okay.
Yeah, I think that was done somewhere because we had a mix-up with park rental because those were all being switched over.
Yep.
Very good questions.
And then my last question is on the next page, page 3, there's a facade improvement program, that's just a pass-through cost to the DDA for $1,295 for the Victorian Marshalls.
Mm-hmm.
Yep, that is a DDA.
Okay, so it's just a pass-through. Yeah. That was all my questions. So you got your motion and your second?
Yes, I did. Do you, Holly, will you call the roll for the first set of accounts payable, please?
Paul,
Yes.
Bizzard,
Yes.
Bellinger,
Yes.
Wise,
Yes.
Hines,
Yes.
Gilroy.
Yes.
Okay, now the second batch, I'd like to make a motion for check 71397 through 71434 for a total of $128,618.66.
All right.
Second.
All right, I believe, do we have a question regarding the other amount, the 31,000, or?
Well, I'm good with that one, but I
Okay.
did come up with the wastewater treatment master plan study for 1906. Just,
Yeah, so, again, sometime since I've been here, I can't remember the exact month, council approved the wastewater master plan, which is going to tell us what our future needs are up at that plant with Tetra Tech, and so they've been making progress on that. That number will represent just about the whole process. There's a little bit that's left to do as far as we have to still meet with them and look at some population projections as well as potential system expansion, but they did make significant progress on that in the last 6 months.
Any other questions regarding this batch?
well, I guess on page 7, it's the East Middle Street, the 31,692. Down near the bottom.
Yep.
Spicer.
Yep, that's connected to the East Middle Mullet Street project. We've got $375,000 coming from NDOT to support that project, so that's just the next phase of engineering.
Okay.
It's all within budget, so
All right.
I got my motion, I got a second.
All right, Holly, will you call the roll for that group of accounts payable, please?
Paul,
Yes.
Bizzard,
Yes.
Bellinger,
Yes.
Wise,
Yes.
Hines,
Yes.
Gilroy.
Yes. All right.
Thank you, Cory.
Yes, thank you very much for answering all those questions. All right, now we are going to go ahead and move into our public hearing for Parks and Recreation Master Plan, and I will call that public hearing to order at 7:07. Okay. Yes, go right
All
ahead.
right, so we are here this evening to entertain any comments on the 5-year Parks and Recreation Master Plan. This is the last step of a approximately 5 to 6 month long process that's mostly been completed by our Parks and Recreation Commission. But in order to ultimately submit the plan, City Council has to pass a resolution to do that. So just so the public's aware, we had a 30-day comment period where we had advertised in the newspaper, on social media, and our website that allowed people to get to comment once more on the plan. We had planned to have this public hearing on January 28th, but that city council meeting was canceled due to the snowstorm. So the state graciously gave us an extension to hold that this evening. So at this time, it's an open comment period. Once it's closed, council will entertain the resolution later as an action item.
My question would be, did we receive any comments from the public during that time period? And did it influence anything with the master plan? Did we make any modifications to it?
Good question. So we did receive 2 comments.
Okay.
The Parks and Rec Commission reviewed those comments. Ultimately, I think we made a very small tweak, but for the most part, the commission let the survey results, which we had over, I think, 250 survey respondents. That was really the nuts and bolts of the public participation. So those 250 responses, is how we generated the plan, along with some historical looks at old plans and commission member input.
Okay. And do we have anybody from the public here this evening regarding our master plan for public hearing? Okay, all right. Any questions regarding the master plan? You all received a copy of it? Okay. All right then, so if there's no public comment, I can go ahead and close the public hearing at 7:09. Now we have a presentation from the Red Cedar Garden Club. Thank you so much, Carol, for being here this evening. If you go ahead, just introduce yourself, and we're excited to hear about your presentation. I see
Okay,
you've got a
well,
PowerPoint all ready for us.
Thank you for inviting me, and I want to tell you a little bit about me. My name is Carol Granger, and my dad and mother grew up in the area. My dad grew up in Weberville, and we moved to Williamston early in my life. My husband's parents lived in Howell. My grandfather, Cecil Hummel, was the supervisor for Leroy Township for a few years, and my uncles were postal carriers in the area. And my parents married here and raised us here, and we graduate from Williamston High School. My kids go to Williamston High School. My dad owned a store, Kitchen Corners, years ago while he was serving as a cop here in town.
Nice.
So he also was a police officer in Wareville, and when my husband and I got married, we stayed here, and my mother moved back. She had moved away for a short period of time, and she ran Parker Manor, the foster care home for adults. And my mother was on the city council for a short while in the early 90s. I was a township clerk for a few years. And so I ran preschool daycare and then went into adult education. And so I'm very embedded in this community, and we have 3 public servants in my family. One's a captain of the fire department, one's a chief investigator, and 1 fireman. So, you know, we're just dedicated to public service, and I really appreciate all that you do.
Thank you.
Now, the Garden Club is just a small organization in our town. And in the Red Cedar Garden Club, we're part of a national organization, a state organization, a regional part, and then we have 52 members locally. Today, Kathy Ware is our past president. She's here to support me.
Hi, Kathy.
And she does a lot of stuff with membership, and we do have the bookmarks there for you on both tables so that people, if they want to know what we're doing, they can grab those. It gives you a list of our events. In the early years when Williamston was first thinking about forming a garden club, women were getting politically active, and so the women's movement actually created the clubs, which are not just women's organizations nowadays. They're both. They're master gardeners, which are a lot of men folk, and then we have the female organization that started back in 1928. And they became very involved in restoration and political activities and historic preservation. So I just kind of wanted you to know where we came from. In our political activities, there were a lot of events that we participated in, and this was primarily when garden clubs were kind of excluded from,
Thanks, Ken.
you know, the historical societies and the male organizations. They formed their own female groups. The women's organizations had their little garden parties, and quite often they were picnics in the park. And they also got involved in a lot of home gardening, and they began to collect and say, you know, we need to share our knowledge of gardening. So Williamston back in 1925, was it? 1925, looked a little bit like this. And the organization formed. We were one of the first gardening clubs in the state of Michigan. And they said, we need to do something to make this town beautiful, and they also wanted to educate people about gardening and preservation. This is the way we look today. These are some of the efforts that we put forth. We do not maintain all of the flower beds in the city of Williamston or all the flower boxes. We only do some of them. But I think together we do a good job. The Depot Museum was one of the projects that we became very much involved in, and of course we felt that we needed to preserve that building and bring it down and use it as a museum. And so today it looks much like this. And we take care of the landscaping around that. So in the early years, it was our project, the Garden Club, to actually help educate people, both young and old. And so we had gardening efforts that were teaching children and adults how to garden. You can see there's a whole class here, and there's another class. Some of the current efforts is that we have the Woodsy Bear Smoky Owl coloring contest, and we take state, regional, and national awards for our competitions, and that's always on exhibit, and it's on exhibit right now at the U.S. Post Office. We also encourage people to bring their children, and so it's like young and old doing craft projects together. We have meals together. We also work with a lot of floral designs, and we enter our floral designs in exhibits. In March, we're doing a presentation. It'll be posted on our Facebook and in the Chamber of Commerce information, and some other public, like in the Enterprise. We're doing a presentation open to the public. There's going to be people from DeWitt and Howell and Grand Ledge and East Lansing that are all coming to this because they really want to know what we're doing with this project. We're trying to encourage bluebirds. So we're going to do it at the Williamston Township Hall, and we're going to assemble a bluebird box, and we're going to sell the kits. They go for $10 and $15, 10 unfinished, 15 a completed box. We also participate in the Home and Garden Show, and we host a flower exhibit there. This is in April. Every year, for many, many years, and I think Marge McGough years ago actually started the, maybe it was Helen, or Patrides. Do you remember her first name? Marion Patrides. They started selling pine trees to elementary school kids for a quarter. Well, it's 50 cents now. We take a loss on it. We actually contribute our money to it so that people will plant pine trees in and around the area. So many of the trees around Williamston are probably due to the fact that we sold those children those trees, and they went and planted them for us. This is another project. We do work with the Scouts on occasion, help them earn their badges. This is a workshop on ferns, which is going to be next month. And we do a lot of plant digs and plant swaps and just casual get-togethers where we can kind of help each other out and learn about gardening, and also it's good to have gardening share local plants. It's healthier. And we also try to teach the Master Gardener practices, which is diversification, always having a variety of things around it. You'll have a healthier environment. This is an awards night that we had, and I'm just going to flip through these kind of quickly because these are just some events that we've had, and I want you to know we all have a really good time when we go on these events, or we do the tours. So we have some interesting gardens around town, so twice a year we try to go on tours of people's gardens that are exceptionally beautiful. That was a recognition night, and it was also a night in September where we kind of kicked off our membership. Every September we do that. We do workshops. This is an earth loom. Ours this year was not that large, but we do kind of creative things using natural fabrics and fibers from our, yard pickups. And we go to conferences. And this is a group that went to a conference. Wild Type, and I think you guys are familiar with Wild Type. They are the ones that helped landscape your riverbanks. They did a presentation to us. And whenever we do a presentation of this type, we always invite the public so that they can learn about it. We do basic floral designs, and we do the green sale every year just before Christmas to raise money to support our beautification projects. And then we have fun. This is a Christmas party that we had. Cups of Love. We decorate cups every year. We do over 120 of them, maybe 150 of them, and we decorate them with flowers and deliver them to people that are shut in or in the adult foster cares. So it's called Cups of Love. And then the Kids in Toyland was a flower show. We invited kids to do displays, and they learned to use the flowers and make arrangements. The Garden Club expenses for 2016, 17, and 18 is given there. We do contribute quite a bit to the flower, let's say, projects around town. And the actual hours is 750 for 2018. That's approximately 17.5 hours per member. And remember, most of our members are over 60 years of age because we're retired. The Blue Star Memorial is one of ours. The gazebo is one of ours. The Butterfly Garden. The Depot Museum. The McCormick Park bathrooms. And I think we have 2 or 3 of the planters downtown. And then that is the US Post Office. And the police station.
Yes.
Mentioning the police station, part of the reason why I felt it was important that we present to you and let you know what we're all about is that we would like to collaborate a little bit more with the city. We understand Elizabeth Williams is moving probably in a year. And so we're going to have to figure out whether or not we tie what we do with the police station in with the city hall and help you with that. So we're more than welcome to invite that conversation. We participate in city events like the National Night Out. That was the Jubilee Parade. And we had our own flower show here in town for the very first time in many years. And we had quite a few entries. That's another garden tour. We did tool workshops where we teach people how to maintain their garden tools. And then we did beekeeping. And we are just inviting you to come to our garden. And that's all I had to say.
Carol, that was wonderful. Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thank you. We do appreciate all the efforts from what the Garden Club does to keep our community beautiful. We really do. And it's always nice to be able to drive through and see the gazebo, everything. Because I think you do something different each year. It almost seems like that there's a different color palette or texture, of the different plants that you pick. So
Yeah, it's important to have variety.
yeah.
And what's most important to our efforts in the projects is just to make Williamston really a welcoming city. So, yes.
So you're gonna take over this out here by our new sign?
Well, we might. We're in conversation with you about it because we have to talk about whether or
Well,
not you
we
would
got a new
continue.
sign there, and the plants that were there before go up to the point where you can't really see it, so.
Yeah,
they have to be saved.
part of, we have 7 or 8 master gardeners in our group.
Right.
And we would like to consult with you with what needs to be done or what needs to be changed out.
And I think you've already kind of started that conversation with Corey, correct?
That's correct.
You've been having ongoing conversations.
Mhm.
That would be fantastic.
Yeah.
Great.
Thank
Thank you,
you.
Carol, so much.
Mm-hmm.
All right, we are going to go ahead and keep moving right forward. We have quite a list under our action items. So our first is the recording of the board meetings. Corey put together a great memo for us, looking at the cost of using our current provider versus bringing it in-house. And I think Corey, you did a fantastic job spelling this out for us. I appreciate that. Does anybody have any questions regarding Corey's memo and the cost associated, or questions regarding what the video production would be doing for us from Studio 130? All right, I'm looking for motion on the action then.
I'd like to make a motion.
All right.
I'd like to make a motion to approve proposal from Studio 130 to add uploading of city council meeting video to their services at a cost of $50 per meeting.
Okay. Do I have a support?
Second.
Okay,
Are
questions?
we gonna have a duration on this, or like a
Let's,
trial for a year, see how it goes? You think
I-
it would
It's a
be-
month.
I think this would, I guess we'll just see how it goes, and if we have questions, or if we,
Wanna change it later?
yeah. All right. Okay, then, I had a motion, I had a support. I think Dan, you supported, correct? Or no, Jeff did. All right, if there's no other questions, then Hollywood. Oh, yeah.
I have one
Okay.
question, I'm sorry.
Sure, that's okay.
Do we have any way, looking at the memo, I think it's obvious that Studio
130.
Studio 130 is the best option we've got there. Do we know, what kind of return we're getting off of the TV side of this? Have we talked to them at all about, you know, finding out what we're getting from the TV side, if there was any way, if
To like
that's.
gauge if it's being watched?
Yeah, to gauge if it's being
Viewership?
watched, and if it's not, you know, can they just do the video upload and we not do the cable, or was there any conversation about that at all? Or-
Go ahead.
It's a great question. I didn't get into specifics on if they're able to look at like viewership numbers from the TV, but I do think under this proposal, it would be transitioning to exclusively online. And so where we save is they've got the additional, you know, $10 fee to get it on a DVD to go on the TV station. And so I've been approaching this as though we would not do that. It would pretty much exclusively be online.
Okay.
But we're also not doing some long-term commitment, so if you come across some good information or
Right.
a better idea, always open them.
Yep. And then, once we have it loaded up onto our website, will we also be loading it up to, will we have a link up on our Facebook page where they can go to our homepage to see that, or are we gonna try YouTube, or are we just gonna exclusively go with our city website for now?
I think that's the beauty of having it on YouTube, is once you have the link, you can
Yep.
pretty much put it anywhere.
Okay.
So the way that this would work is Studio 130 would upload that, we would get the link, and then we can put it
Put it
wherever
anywhere.
we want. So
Okay.
I think I've heard that council wants to put it on Facebook.
Yep.
So we would do all of those things.
Excellent. Very transparent. All right.
So,
Any-
Corey,
yes.
so Corey, just a last question, so we're going to sole source this because of the past experience we have at Costa, we're not going to go out.
Correct.
Thank you.
We're adding a service to the existing
Contract.
service. Yeah.
Okay. Any other questions? Okay, Holly, will you call the roll, please?
Wise,
Yes.
Rhines,
Yes.
Gilroy,
Yes.
Hall,
Yes.
Bizzard,
Yes.
Bellinger.
Yes.
I'm very excited about this. Moving into social media and future and cable TV. No, I'm not, no, I'm not actually about this. All right, next on our action items, we have the first reading of the fireworks ordinance. Corey and I talked about this. We are taking what the state of Michigan has, adapting it. I do have a question though, because after reading through this, are we able, once we adapt this, after we get through first reading, second reading, all that, you know, can we add to it? Or do we have to take it as is and we could not add like a sub-ordinance off of it? Like, I'll just be very transparent right now. I'm not a fan of consumer fireworks within the city limits because I think it proposes, it's hazardous. If people do not pay attention to fire bans and dry conditions and everything, and they start shooting them off, the potential for damage to their own property or to adjacent properties is tremendous. So while I support commercial fireworks in a very controlled environment atmosphere, I don't know if I support consumer fireworks.
I'm gonna
Tim.
read that.
Thank you. State law regulates consumer fireworks.
Right.
State law allows local municipalities to regulate fireworks, but only to the extent that state law permits it.
Right.
So state law allows consumer fireworks on certain days of the
Right.
year.
Right,
You cannot prohibit their use
okay.
on
I
those
just wanted that
days of the year.
clarification. Okay,
The ordinance as drafted prohibits the use of the consumer fireworks to the maximum extent allowed by state law.
except for the dates listed.
You could allow them for more
Right.
time, more
Right.
days,
Right.
but you can't prohibit them, you can't make it illegal on
Right.
fewer days.
Right, unless, of course, there is a burn ban or dry conditions, and then is,
That
How
would
does
be
that
a-
work?
Well, that would be a separate matter, and
Okay.
you would have, deal with that, and that would deal mainly with then, fires,
right,
really.
yeah, for potential of fire due to conditions.
So do you run into this much, chief, where, or
A
was
little
that?
bit, but not much.
Yeah.
We've been fairly tolerant with it, but then when state law come, we just adhere to state law.
Right.
And it's generally complaint driven, but it's not, it's really not been a big issue for us.
So, for the record, enforcement on this particular ordinance is strictly gonna be with the police department, correct?
I believe so.
Unless you get a fire, then you're getting me some.
Well, then,
Well,
then the
I
call
just-
goes out. But you know, that's just
Our
my
burning ordinance,
concern.
though, that's one of the concerns, who enforces the burning ordinance. you know?
Well, we're covering that with the fire code, I think, right?
Mm.
Or, because isn't
No.
the legal acting, I'm getting that word wrong, but the legal acting authority, isn't that something we're gonna have to decide in that process?
Yeah.
Yeah, the fire code, you know, if adopted, you have to designate NISA as the authority having jurisdiction.
Right.
But what impact that has on burn bans, I don't know at this very moment.
Burn bans are issued through usually the DNR. essentially
Right, if
the
it's dry
state.
conditions or something, because I mean, I know in the past years, it's been conditions where we've had a drought and municipalities have actually canceled commercial fireworks, so I'm just wondering if that then would, you know, I would hope that consumers would be, you know,
Is there anything in here that
nope,
states that if the state puts on a burn ban that this,
nope.
should there be?
I don't know that we can put
I
that in
don't
there, I
think
think
we
that's
can
what
because
Tim
it's
just said.
state, it's, this is,
But, right, but the ordinance is coming from the state,
Well,
technically, correct?
we're allowing what the state allows.
yep,
And we're not allowing anything else.
right.
So does the state allow commercial fireworks when there's a burn ban? You see what I'm saying?
That would be a separate question, but,
And
I've
we
seen
are.
it happen before, yes.
Yeah, and we are on the first reading, so, you know, maybe these are things that we can, you know, just get some clarification on before our second reading, or have that information when we get to our second reading, that when a burn ban goes into effect, how do we enforce that commercially and consumer wise? And, you know, if somebody violates a burn ban, what are the ramifications of it?
Guess my question would be, can we tack on a further penalty if someone violates a burn ban? Like, in here, it stipulates, what, $1,000 fine?
Yep,
Could we tack on, you know, if you violate this outside, you know, if you violate a burn ban, it's a $1,500 fine, or?
I don't know,
Yes,
because
it's
it's state
separate.
mandated.
Separate matter, and
Yep.
we'll look into
Yep.
that issue.
Thank you.
know, in the
I
next
mean, I just
meeting.
would like, my whole thing is I wanna protect everybody's personal property. And so I get that we can't mess with, what the state is mandating, and what they give as allowable dates and stuff, but, I just would hate for something to happen if,
One other issue that most people don't think about is becoming more and more apparent. People dealing with PTSD.
Yep.
I have Vietnam veteran friends that go way up north to get away from all that noise. Because that percussion thing, when you hear that boom, it takes too many guys right back. So it's one more consideration, firing firearms, shooting shotguns in the air and all that.
Mhm.
If it happens, you'll hear from me.
Right. I do, yep, yep. All right, so that was our first reading of the fireworks ordinance. I don't believe we have to take action
Yeah,
on
we
it.
would want to have a motion to
Approve the first reading, okay,
So moved.
okay.
Supported.
All right, Holly, will you call the roll then?
Rhines,
Yes.
Gilroy,
Yes.
Hall,
Yes.
Bizzard,
Yes.
Bellinger,
Yes.
Weiss.
Yes.
All right, so now we're moving along, we have appointment of Bruce Bellinger to the zoning board of appeals for a term to expire 1/1/21. We're always excited when people submit their applications to serve on boards, so I'm looking for a motion to move this
Motion to
forward.
appoint Bruce Bellinger to the zoning board of appeals for a term to expire 1/1/2021.
Thank you.
Second.
All right, any questions regarding his application? Holly, will you call the roll?
Gilroy,
Yes.
Hall,
Yes.
Bizzard,
Yes.
Bellinger,
Yes.
Weiss.
Yes.
Rhines.
Yes.
All right, thank you. Now we're moving on to our second reading of the ordinance for principal and special land use permitted within the I-1 district. We've already had our first reading. I don't believe there were any changes made to this, so this is our second reading to keep this moving forward.
Make a motion to approve the second reading of the ordinance for principal and special use land permits within the I-1 district.
Second.
Thank you. Any questions regarding this? There were no changes? Holly?
Paul,
Yes.
Bizzard,
Yes.
Bellinger,
Yes.
Wise.
Yes.
Rhines,
Yes.
Gilroy.
Yes. All right, we did have our public hearing on the Parks and Recreation Master Plan earlier this evening, so therefore I am looking for approval for the Parks and Recreation Master Plan.
So moved.
Second.
All right. Any other questions regarding that? All right, Holly?
Paul,
Yes.
Bizzard,
Yes.
Bellinger,
Yes.
Wise.
Yes.
Rhines,
Yes.
Gilroy.
Yes. All right, the action item now is the appointment of a fire code committee. Corey and I had a conversation earlier today. At our last council meeting, when I seated our council members to the different boards, I asked to entertain the creation of a fire code committee to help us implement fire code and fire inspection. Corey and I had conversation earlier today, and we talked about whether we wanted to move forward with a subcommittee of council, or if we would like to create an ad hoc committee. And it would be my recommendation, after talking with Corey, that we create an ad hoc committee for no more than a 2-year period. And the reason for this would be that not only would this ad hoc committee have members of council on it, but we would also like to extend invitation to Williamstown Township and to the Village of Weberville and any other municipalities that NISA services, to kind of help them move their fire inspection, fire code forward, so that it's mutually beneficial, that this helps NISA with everyone being on the same page. So that is what I'm looking for this evening, is the creation of a 2-year ad hoc fire code work group.
Is the board going to consist of 2 representatives from each group?
I would like that, and what I would like for Corey to do, and if they don't have 2 members, at least 1 member.
So
This
it would need to be the
This almost reminds me of the old fire board.
Yes, yes. And I'd like Corey to extend the invitation to Williamstown Township, to the Village of Weberville, possibly Leroy Township, again, the municipalities and the townships that NISA serves. My recommendation still would be for Councilman Weiss and Councilman Bizzard to be our representatives from Williamson, because they do have that experience of being firefighter, EMT, Ingham County, emergency management. And then I know that we did have interest from someone at the township, Williamstown Township. So that's what I would like to make the recommendation of for this evening.
I think it's a good idea, because I've been hearing, Williamstown Township, from what I understand, is very interested, but some of their ideas on implementation have been different from some of the things we've been talking about, so I think it's a good idea.
I
It's
think it
a
would-
uniform enforcement
Yes.
also for
Yes.
NISA.
Yep.
and It'll streamline.
And my vision with this would be, during that first year of this ad hoc committee, is where all the parties come together, are on the same page, creating that inspection, that code, and then that second year being that voice to the brick and mortars, to the industrial parks, the commercial businesses, helping them understand that this is to keep them safe, not to come in and dictate what they need to do, but to help them understand that we're putting fire code and fire inspection in place for their benefit. So,
Make a motion to form an ad hoc fire code committee for a period of 2 years.
thank you.
Second.
Thank you.
Okay, and then
Yes.
just a quick question, for clarification, the board would make recommendations to the city council?
Yes.
Just- okay.
Yes,
Okay.
yep, and that way it kind of takes the burden off the city manager being involved. We can get representation from NISA to be on ad hoc committee.
I think we need to stipulate membership on this ad hoc committee, is that correct?
if you're forming it, you can discuss that, but it would be the mayor that would fill those slots.
Right.
But I'm-
So-
You can describe the slots.
Yes,
So, okay.
yes.
Okay.
So I would like representation from each of the municipalities. I'll work with Corey to extend those invitations, and then we'll come back and I'll make my recommendation
Can
for members.
Maybe have it be one board member and possibly a member from the public for those townships. Because I think that might be beneficial, because I do know that there's other people in the township and that gives also the public a little voice in some of this too.
I think the way that should probably go is you do 2 from each, because we want 2 from here, and they're gonna want equal representation. But then
Sure.
if you leave like 2 slots open for public,
Mhm.
for people that are just
Yeah.
public.
'Cause
And
the building side of it is what
Sure,
I'm thinking of.
sure, yeah, and Corey, will you just double check the ad hoc language in our charter to make sure that we can include community participation as well? I'm pretty sure that would be
We had-
okay, considering that we had the ad hoc committee for farmers market. And we'll establish, make contact with those municipalities, make sure that they have interest, and
You may find that some of them don't want to participate. but
sure,
what prompted it-
and definitely offer them a
Sure.
seat on it, and hopefully they would see the advantage to doing that. Yes, Noah?
You also need an alternate, just in case one of the 2 don't show, or you just wanna run it with, just when one doesn't go, the other one just takes a lead. So if Jeff's on the council board, there's a meeting that night, do you want another person to step in or not?
That'd be a good idea. Yeah, we could have an alternate to the 2, sure, yeah,
Maybe volunteer.
okay, so Jeff, John, Noah,
You're
Sure.
there at every planning, that's why
Right.
I'm asked, so I appreciate it.
the more ears, the better, so, yes,
And it's my understanding, this is intended to be a purely advisory
Yes.
committee.
Yes.
It will not make any decisions on matters of public policy, but rather make recommendations
Yes.
to this body.
yes, yes, correct, thank you, Tim. All right, Holly?
Bizzard,
Yes.
Bellinger,
Yes.
Wise,
Yes.
Rhines,
Yes.
Gilroy,
Yes.
Hall.
Yes.
Thank you very much. I think this is gonna be a very instrumental group once we get it moving forward. Our next action item is St. Mary's request for waiver of fee and decibel levels for an event that they are looking to hold on August 2nd, 2019 down at McCormick Park. I have a question, and this is probably for Chief. With our noise ordinance that we have, I don't believe there's decibels that are attached to that, are there?
No, I
Okay.
cannot find that. I think it's a zoning thing. I think historically it might have come along when McCormick, the Park band shell was built. We do have a decibel meter at the police department.
Yay.
We've never
Used it?
in the 9 years I've been here. And so that was the question. Court and I had this discussion. So what's the difference between 70 decibels and 100 decibels?
Right.
A lot.
And so, only one time I can remember we had a complaint and we just went and talked to the bands, hey, tone it down.
Right.
Across the river and so.
Yeah, I mean, I cannot recall being on duty on a Thursday evening, walking through the park and having it be loud or having any calls come in as a complaint that it was too loud. I
Right.
think way back in the day, Berkshire used to be a little loud with their Friday patio parties.
Yes, I'm sure it's those township people.
So, right, township
But
people.
it is on the application, I think
Sure.
that's where it come up, that
Okay.
that no higher than 70 decibels, and that's why I
Okay.
think they put, because the band said, well, we may get 100 decibels, and that's where
Right.
the issue came up. But
Sure.
from an enforcement aspect of it, we've not had an issue or used the decibel meter, but we do have one.
Let's send out whoever's on duty as a training opportunity. What's that? Oh, yeah, who's here? Speak to us.
Well,
How
no,
loud is
I was just
100
waiting.
decibels?
I was just sitting back and absorbing this well-run machine and thinking there's no way I can compete with the Red Cedar.
Oh, get up there, come on, come step forward, please.
You know, we presented this, I went through the application process, and I've talked with a few of you already about this, but I went through the application process to use the band shelter, and Mike Moran has been instrumental in contacting the bands and the sound. But this kind of came together as a joint venture between St. Mary's and Williamston Free Methodist. Because Father Mark gets along great with Pastor Dave, the connection was there, and it was basically, hey, let's bring our community together. Let's unite in what, we have approximately 11 different denominations, different Christian worship places within our community. And what do we all have beautifully in common? Music. So that's when it was conceived, and it was on my mind as well. And I made a couple phone calls to Mike, and I said, Mike, can you come on board and help us out? And he said, absolutely. And then we also have Susan Demmer, who's on board with us. But our head of it is Father Mark and Pastor Dave. That's where we're at currently. Now, we are gonna add more, definitely, we definitely want to input, but first and foremost, we have to get the venue down. We have to get the foundation down. We have to get the concept down. And then we will start adding. But one of the things, when I went through to look at the venues, and especially just, we have the band shelter, it's beautiful, we have the concession stand, we have the restrooms, we have the perfect location for it. And but when I went through it, I saw the decimal, and I said, you know what? And everybody I've talked to has said, you know, I don't even know the decibel, I don't even know we have. But I said, you know what? We have to be honest, and that is something with some of the groups that we're looking at, like that Mike is looking at right now. Building 429 is a potential, but before we can do anything with contracts, before we can do anything with that. I looked at the contract had that they have a decibel in their contract, and we have a 70 decibel. So I was like, you know what, we have to be honest. We have to go in and ask for, that this is okay.
Okay.
Well, the one had 100 decibels, right?
Right,
Yeah.
right.
So, bottom line is, I've been to a lot of the concerts and stuff, I've never heard any real complaints.
Yeah.
And I can't imagine your type of event is gonna exceed any of that.
Right.
And if they do, yeah, so what, plug your ears. No, seriously, I don't think it's gonna be an issue, and I don't think we should get hung up on it, but
No.
I think maybe, and they're being really upfront and honest, wanna make sure
absolutely.
ahead of time that it's okay. I don't know if we should have a waiver for this event, just because one of the contracts says that, or.
My thing is, it's an outdoor venue, and it's typically a concert, so it's gonna be loud.
Well, like I was saying, in my 4 years of being a reserve and primarily being on duty on Thursday evenings, we never had a complaint for band shell, and, you know, Chief is, you know, is able to back that up, so I think we're gonna be okay.
I think advertising will be a key, so that the community is prepared and ready.
Oh,
In the
sure.
community, of course, we wanna, you know, I submitted an application today for, to see if potentially we could have the banner for the advertisement, so that the community, this is to bring everybody in. This is purely 100% for, unity.
So what is it gonna be called?
Currently,
Yes.
I have Natalie Pennington, who also has stepped up, she does graphic designs, amazing. Currently, it is gonna be the Williamston Worship Fest.
Worship.
And we're mimicking it over the Faith Fest in DeWitt. And then there's also, what I was just looking up today, and because the potential band that we're looking at is also playing at the Worship on the Waterfront that Grand Haven has, so they will be coming from Grand Haven. So Grand Haven has these beautiful concerts also outside, right, you know, on the river leading into Lake Michigan as well. So they'll be coming from that venue.
So I want to make sure that I'm clear, because I'm looking at the front page, it says August 2nd, but on the second page, it says August 2nd through 3rd. August
Yeah.
2nd is a Friday,
Right.
August 3rd is a Saturday. What is the actual
Say
date?
August 2nd,
So-
if we get this particular group, will
Okay.
come in on a Friday.
Okay,
At a reduced rate because they're coming from there. So originally, we were August 3rd,
okay,
but we're moving it back to August 2nd.
okay, so the event would be on Friday.
It would be on a Friday night, based on the availability of this particular group.
Okay,
So,
Another question for you, it says wristbands, how do you plan on that area, how, you know what I mean?
yeah.
Because it's an open park to the public, things
Yeah,
like that.
and again, this is, I'll be completely honest, this is my first time. So I'm sitting down with people that do the Faith Festival, I'm sitting down with others, but from my understanding, we have, some people on our committee that have worked with the beer festival, and then the beer festival, they've done the roping in certain portions
with
of it.
Nation, yeah.
So that's what we're looking at potentially doing because then we'd have premier seating and we'd have the ability to have that. That is, we're kind of mimicking what they were doing, is what that's my thoughts so far.
So,
Oh, sorry.
my
You
next
finish.
question, I guess, would be for Corey, is there any special permitting or anything they would need to look at for that?
Yes.
Okay.
I just wanna make sure that
Yep.
they're aware.
Yes,
Yeah, I think this is really the first step.
First, absolute
Because they
first
can't
step.
plan anything unless
Yep.
they
Right.
know this. So there's really, a twofold request. The waiver of the fees, due to the fact they're a 501c3 or church. You guys have seen those kind of
Yep.
requests
Yep.
before. The waiver on the decibel level is new. I don't know that we've had that come across the desk here.
Yep.
And so, like Monica said, she submitted the next piece of paperwork
Right.
today, and so, we would do our normal internal review process on that.
So, on that note, if I go to, yeah, I can't pull a calendar up here. I believe August 6th is National Night Out. If there's any tent rentals or things like that, porta johns, things are brought in, maybe to help you guys out cost-wise, and National Night, maybe look at,
That stuff doesn't usually come until Monday for National Night Out. It would probably be an additional rental cost. The reason I'm saying this is because I'm usually the guy setting up the tent.
hey, thanks for volunteering. The only reason I ask is because if it's a Friday event, people are
Sure.
working Saturday,
Oh,
Sunday,
I
they'd be
gotcha.
picking up Monday, it might be, I don't know, just throwing that out
No,
there.
that's,
no, I think it's
So-
wonderful, because if we can work together on that, absolutely. Absolutely, because, okay.
Jeff?
Well, I just have a question for Tim. Tim, would it be suffice to say during the motion, if someone were to make a motion to waive the decibel level, would that satisfy the waiver of the
Or not
code?
to exceed.
Or not to exceed?
Well, just a real quick question on that, it depends how you measure the decibel level, because I have contracts that a vacuum has to be less than 76 decibels at 5 feet. So a normal vacuum running at 5 feet distance is 76 vacuum, which is not very loud. You know, if
Well, how would we propose that language?
I'm not certain you want to even go that route. First off, you can't really waive a city ordinance
Yep.
by council action like this, excuse me. And the chief has already indicated the method of enforcement.
Right.
Roger that. I'll make a motion to approve the request for the soon-to-be Williamston Worship Fest and waive fees.
Second.
All right. Any other further discussion? I think we had a lot of good conversation.
Can I
Yes,
ask a question?
yes.
Is there a time frame for when we have to stop at night or during the morning? Because there'll probably be a sound check during morning, afternoon with the band. And then we're not sure what time we're starting, but probably thinking 7 to 10.
7.
10 o'clock, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so 10 o'clock would be a good stuff.
Time to shut her down.
Yeah,
Yep.
that's what we were just talking earlier.
No, there is no time
potentially that's
associated
7
with
to
the
10.
noise ordinance.
Perfect.
Nope. Correct, chief, if I'm not mistaken, there's no time associated with our quiet time noise ordinance language.
No, and then when it comes into disturbing the peace,
Yeah.
that's more of a judgment call if you're
Yeah.
disturbing the peace, so I don't see any issues here. When it gets down to the staff level, after council takes their action, it'll get down to staff level, and so
Yeah.
we'll be having dialogue on
Mhm.
some of these other items.
Yep.
Yeah.
Excellent. If there's no further discussion, then I'll have Holly call roll on this.
Scissor,
Yes.
Bellinger,
Yes.
Wise,
Yes.
Rhines,
Yes.
Gilroy,
Yes,
Hall.
Yes.
it sounds like a very exciting event.
Yes, I just want to say thank you so much.
Yeah.
And honestly, if there's any questions ever, please feel free to contact me. So, thank
And
you.
definitely reach out to Travis and Camilla at Old Nation because they did, their event was fantastic.
Yeah.
It was so well executed, from every aspect of it. So they
Wonderful.
definitely, you know, they've done that, and I'm sure they'd be willing to offer some
Yeah.
good
Use their
suggestions.
best practices.
Yeah,
Yes,
right?
don't reinvent the wheel.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right, our last action item of the evening then is a resolution to adopt property exemption eligibility requirements, income standards, assessment test, and application for 2019, which is a big, long sentence. So at the end of the day, Corey, tell us what we're doing.
Sure, so this is a standard resolution that we're required to adopt. So I would recommend adoption. Our assessor, Pete Preston, is in the audience. If there's
Hi,
any
Pete.
particular questions,
Sure.
I would defer to him.
Okay. Pete, do you want to give us a real quick synopsis of what this is and what we're approving?
Sure. On an annual basis, the city council or any local government jurisdiction has to adopt an asset test. You can adopt something different than the asset test that we put forward, but essentially it's based on the federal poverty guidelines that the State Tax Commission gave us in October, so it's actually 2018's federal guidelines. And then as far as that's the income level, but as far as an asset test, if someone falls on hard times, they need that chance. It's also looking at what do they have available to them to essentially liquidate and be able to not be poverty. We put that at double what the federal guidelines are for poverty. That does not include the value of the house, but it can include such things as payments for Social Security, can include payments for retirement and those sorts of things. So it's really aiming at making sure somebody really is in poverty before that exemption is given.
Excellent. Thank you very much. Any questions regarding what we're taking action on? All right. Looking for a motion?
Make a motion to approve the resolution to adopt poverty exemption eligibility requirements, income standards, and asset test, and application for 2019.
Second.
All right. Holly?
Ballinger,
Yes.
Wise.
Yes.
Hines,
Yes.
Gilroy,
Yes.
Hall,
Yes.
Bizzard.
Yes.
Thank you. That was a long list. I'm glad that we got through it. Discussion items, we have the LEAP grant for art in McCormick Park. I didn't see anything in our packet.
Just a verbal update.
Okay, great.
So this was a little bit more pertinent had we met on January 28th because we had a deadline of January 31st.
Okay.
So we have gone ahead and applied for this LEAP art grant. It's a maximum grant of $10,000. And you may remember last year, City Council adopted an art policy. And that was sort of the first step in being able to be eligible to apply for this grant. So Holly has been working on this grant application that would help us replace some of the wooden sculptures in McCormick Park. We haven't talked a whole lot about this at the council level, but some of those structures are reaching the end of their useful life, which is sad because they really are just a wonderful addition to the park. So if we're fortunate enough to get this grant, this would start the process to replace some of those with a similar type structure. So I really want to give credit to Holly for helping take this to the goalpost, forming the art committee, developing an art policy, and then writing the grant application. So we were strongly encouraged multiple times by LEAP to do this. So we'll see where it falls. We should know, I think, sometime by mid-March. And then if we're successful, that's really what our art committee would be charged with, is basically running the process to find the artists to do the sculptures and add those new amenities. So
Holly, where are we at with art committee? I know that we've had the applications coming in. Are we set with membership now?
We're set with members.
Okay.
We're just kind of waiting to hear if we got the grant yet.
Okay, and then we'll have our first meeting? Excellent. Thank you so much for, I know that's a big passion of yours, one of your passions, so I really appreciate it. And I think it'll benefit Williamston well, and keep our fingers crossed that we get approved. Excellent. Next thing for discussion is the MML Spring Conference. We all know the Michigan Municipal League always puts their spring drive-in conference. You have the agenda in here if you are interested in attending this year. It looks like some of the topics are repeat topics from previous years, but for new council members, if you've never gone to a Michigan Municipal League spring conference, they are interesting. There's good information that's shared. It's a good way to network with other municipalities, and so if you have interest, let Corey know, and he can get us signed up. We have correspondence that we received, and that's for you to read on your own time. Now I'll move along to department head reports. Corey always does a great job with his city manager report. Is there anything you wanted to add in addition to that?
Just for the public's sake, just want to give credit to the DPW. We've had a lot of snow events the last couple of weeks. We've also had at least one water main break that they had to respond to. So it's always nice to give them credit because they're coming in at 2 in the morning. A lot of those days to clear streets, move snow, salt, and I think they've been doing a pretty good job. So I think there's some more weather that's planned for maybe this evening and in the morning. So it'll be another interesting day. But yeah, I just want to publicly recognize the DPW for their work.
Yep. Yep, I want to second that too. During our whole snow and weather event last week, Corey and I talked about it extensively, what to do, our policies. We follow suit with the state of Michigan. If state of Michigan offices close, we therefore close our city offices, and I expressed to Corey that, I didn't want staff driving in unsafe conditions, inclement weather, and so I was really kind of glad that, we, the state of Michigan closed, so our staff did not have to come in. But I want to publicly thank DPW too, because they represent our community. They're out there taking care of business while we are sleeping, making sure that the roads are safe for us to drive. So I really appreciate that. And it looks like we're going to have a slippery drive tomorrow morning based on AccuWeather's predictions. So, Chief?
Nothing really to report. What I do want to just remind everybody though, if they want to know what we're doing on a daily basis, go to our website. We have behind our Bonnie uploads our activity on a daily basis. We have Nixos, we send out reports, and Facebook so we can interact with the community. So just want to remind people about that.
And I did get the Nixle reports last week regarding the water main break, and so if you've not subscribed to that, you can subscribe to it. You will get those text messages that come through advising you of certain situations, whether it's a water main break or a street closure or highway closure or just conditions that the public should know about. So you should get out there and check that out. Building department, Scott's not here. We did get a report from AGS. It looks like we've got some work happening. It's always nice to see that permits are being submitted. So that's always a good thing. All right, committee and subcommittee reports. I don't think we've had any board meetings. I think some of our boards meetings have been canceled either due to lack of agenda items or weather.
Nothing to report.
Nothing to report from planning. I don't think parks have met, so that's okay. You guys are gonna have to report at some point, so be ready. We have another opportunity for audience participation. Is there anybody out there that would like to introduce themselves? Because I'm seeing some new faces out there and I'm guessing you're from MSU.
You are correct.
Would each of you stand up? Because we love it when our journalism students show up.
Sure. I'm Sean Gardner. I'm a junior at Michigan State, journalism major. Born and raised in East Lansing, Michigan.
Okay.
Went to high school at Lansing Catholic. So familiar with the Williamston area. It's a beautiful town, and I'm excited to be here. So.
Great, thank you.
Thank you.
I'm Emily Bavard. I'm a sophomore at MSU and also a journalism major. And then I'm not from anywhere around here, but I'm from Centerline, which is kind of like Williamston. So I'm excited to report on this area.
Excellent.
Hi, I'm Diana Cambrano. I'm a junior at MSU journalism student as well. I'm born and raised in Detroit, Michigan, so not too far. But I'm also in love with Williamston's downtown and the area as well, so I'm very excited to be here as well.
Excellent. We love it when the MSU students come. if you have questions for any of us, feel free to ask. We're not shy, at least I don't think we are. And we'd love to help you out with your stories that you're working on because it's super important and we like when we have students come out and they want to report on Williamston. So thank you for being here tonight.
Thank you.
All right, I will go around, council member comments. I'll start with Mr. Hall.
Just quickly, the American Legion is looking at doing a little more outreach with flags. We have a flag in Dahlstrom Park that it's time to replace. I'm going to be replacing the one in Memorial Park. I've got it in my car. Just looking for a decent day. But the flag down there, I don't know who exactly takes care of it, but it's actually kind of small for the size pole. It's way up in the air and you got a 3x5 flag. That's what was done at the Eagles. It was a little flag for a 40-foot pole. So we got them a 6x10 flag, but it's not lit, and that one's not lit. I'm looking at getting some solar-powered pole-mounted or top-mounted solar lights so that it is illuminated, because that's code. So do you know who I talked to? Talk to Scott?
I can ask around, I don't know offhand.
Yeah, just come up with this. This was reported to me, so.
Just don't get the clamp-on pole kind. We got those at the township, and they stripped out because
No.
the
It would
wind
have to
would
either
go
be
higher.
screwed in, or they have a top mount that would be great, but the one there and the Eagles, I can't lay the flagpole down because that one's welded and this one's screwed to, it's not like it's, usually you can, a couple bolts and you can just lay it down and take care of it.
Can't you just pole vault up to the top of it?
There was a time when I could have, yes. Not lately.
That's a great idea. Thank you, Ken. Awesome. Mr. Bellinger.
No comments tonight.
Mr. Bitzer.
I'm good.
Mr. Ryan.
I just want to also publicly thank DPW. It's been brutal outside the last few weeks, and they've done a great job.
Mr. Weiss.
I have nothing, thank you.
All right. I am going to go ahead and I'm going to adjourn the meeting. We're going to go into closed session. So I will make a motion to adjourn.
I make a
motion to go into closed session. Sorry.
I make a motion that we go into closed session to discuss pending litigation in the matter of LTD Red Cedar versus City of Williamston in front of the Michigan Tax Tribunal.
Okay. Do I have support?
Support.
All right. Holly, do we have to call the roll on that? Okay.
Weiss?
Yes.
Rhines?
Yes.
Gilroy?
Yes.
Hall?
Yes.
Bizzard?
Yes.
Bellinger?
Yes.
All right. I will go ahead and call to order, go back into open session.
I would like to make a motion to accept the recommendation that City Council approve the recommendation made by legal counsel while in closed session in compliance with Section 8E of the Open Meetings Act and authorize legal counsel to sign any necessary documents.
So moved.
Okay. Holly, will you call the roll, please?
Second.
Gilroy?
Yes.
Hall?
Yes.
Bizzard?
Yes.
Bellinger?
Yes.
Weiss?
Yes.
Rhines?
Yes.
All right. I'm looking for a motion. Go ahead and close this out, right? Adjourn.
Motion to adjourn this meeting.
All right. All right. All those in favor?
Aye.